Howdy everyone, and welcome to the show and my set, which is just my bedroom, but with the camera angled in this direction because it was the only tolerable option. Hashtag working with what we got. Today's video is a review of Bicentennial Man, i.e. the 1999 science fiction comedy romance directed by Chris Columbus and starring Robin Williams, Sam Neill, and etc. This review was requested by patron Kevin Vey, which I hope he, and by extension the rest of y'all, enjoyed this video, which should be spoiler free. So without further ado, here is a review of Bicentennial Man. Bicentennial Man was not received well by critics at the time. This 1999 science fiction drama comedy romance movie about a robot who desires to be human has a rough 36% critic rating on Rotten Tomatoes and was criticized for having unfocused themes, being genre confused, wasting Robin Williams' talent, and even having no heart in some cases, all of which are the culprits behind the film's various cinematic miscalculations, alongside a certain cynicism over how the film manufactured reasons to make the audience cry, which shame on the movie there. How dare it try to evoke an emotional response. Chris Columbus, you manipulative scumbag. And with those issues, Bicentennial Man did not land well with critics. According to the critical consensus, the film aimed for the heart, but missed worse than a stormtrooper pointing his blaster at point-blank range. It was, according to these critics, a creative misfire. These critics were fucking wrong though. According to me, a first-time viewer who's ready to help give this film a proper re-evaluation, Bicentennial Man is actually quite good. It has a good heart with some funny comedic undertones, a good performance by Robin Williams, and has some very resonant themes about self-determinism and overcoming the confines of one's own creation, which is something that I really related to as a trans person for reasons I will soon get into. I overall really enjoyed this film. Bicentennial Man's positive qualities start with its story. The plot takes place in the futuristic year of 2005 and follows an appliance metallic android named Andrew who is brought in by the Martin family to act as a household servant and caretaker, nothing more. Seeing as this is all from Andrew's perspective, the Martin family are mostly referred to with titles. Sam Neill's father figure is Sir, the likable daughter is Little Miss, and the unlikable older daughter is just referred to as Miss, though I think her name should instead be Disowned. And from there, Andrew, like all other robots in his line, is set to do chores with nary a concept of free will for the rest of his existence. But with that said, things are not as they seem. See, Andrew is different from the other androids in his product line. Unlike the other robots, Andrew is actually quite inquisitive, has creative passion, and feels genuine emotion. He actually has individuality, something that both Sir and Little Miss notice, and as a result form a bond with Andrew. And from there, they teach Andrew and help develop the robot as a person to where Andrew must figure out what he wants out of life and who he wants to become as a person, even though there are societal and technological barriers that make his goal difficult to achieve. Societal barriers because legally he's considered to be a robot and a product rather than a person, and technological barriers because Andrew lives in a metallic android body lacking personal functions. Functions like being able to portray his emotions on his face, feeling the sensation of touch, and etc. But whatever the case, these barriers prevent Andrew from acquiring what he ultimately wants, his desire to both physically and legally be recognized as a human. And throughout the course of the film, Andrew embarks on an emotional journey that lasts hundreds of years. Being a robot means being immortal as long as you can afford the repair bill, after all. As he tries to figure out his own individuality, he must find a way to claim his own humanity. Bicentennial Man works on an emotional level, and much of this is due to Robin Williams. In fact, as a main character, Andrew is humanized by a great Robin Williams performance, i.e. one of the best actors that can convince any audience to care and get emotionally invested in any character regardless of background. Yes, even a robot. Through Williams, we see Andrew as a person more than just being a machine that we visibly see. He has charm, heart, curiosity, and a terrific sense of humor because Robin Williams. And even Andrew's shortcomings, i.e. his ignorance of the human condition and his inherent programmed need to please his human masters, still have constructive qualities given that they provide narrative obstacles that Andrew must overcome. He has room for notable character growth. out, and honestly, it's all pretty well done. The movie is heartwarming here. The human connections Andrew fosters are terrific as well. Sir acts as a great father figure, wise in the arts of humanity, yet has a character flaw in that he fears letting Andrew go. Little Miss is a woman who desires nothing more than to advance the righteous cause of Andrew's personhood. Rupert Burns is an innovative roboticist who would love to aid Andrew in his quest for bodily autonomy, and Portia, no relation, offers a potential romantic relationship for our protagonist, because of course, our robot deserves love. And with that, all of these characters offer fresh perspective in the narrative at fresh intervals, and introduce new challenges and ideas amid Andrew's quest for his own humanity. It's good, and they are all incredibly complementary. The characters also act as the great quote-unquote straight man to Robin Williams' comedic jokes. Alongside a running gag where Andrew takes everything literally, Williams sharpens his comedic chops to a very humorous degree. In fact, nearly every random outburst or dialogue reflecting Andrew's robotic eccentricities are pretty damn funny. Like, he'll make awkward descriptive comments that aren't exactly appropriate in social settings, things that were clearly not ingrained into Andrew's psyche during his initial programming, like comments on appearances, work ethic, and moral stature. And this truly causes the movie to earn some big laughs at times, which is a sentiment that the movie is well aware of given how many characters in the film laugh at Andrew's antics, truly reflecting the audience's feelings here. Bicentennial Man just has a lot of good jokes, and while I wouldn't go so far as to describe Bicentennial Man as solely being a comedy, it is definitely a science fiction drama with many strong comedic elements and quality jokes. It's a serious movie, but it's also pretty funny along the way. Of course, Bicentennial Man isn't all fun and games. If anything, there are a lot of somber elements as well, given that Andrew is an immortal being who does not have flesh that decays over time like the rest of us. He, over time, repeatedly sees people that he loves grow old, meaning that he has to come to grips with human mortality, that all humans eventually succumb and die, which is never a comforting thought. Sorry to bring it up. Here is a picture of my dog to cheer you up. And through this lens, the film, and by extension Andrew as a character, gains a true emotional depth, mostly because Andrew is otherwise a complete joy of a presence, but the fact that the people he loves will eventually die, all while he lives on, is one unchangeable reality that he can never escape from. And as a result, Bicentennial Man hits the audience in the feels. There is some element of pain behind Andrew's robotic visage that adds an emotional maturity to the proceedings. Furthermore, Bicentennial Man runs the gauntlet on your emotions, which is something that really befits director Chris Columbus's oeuvre. As many of y'all are aware, Chris Columbus had a run of family-friendly films from the 90s and the early 2000s, including these movies that are now retroactively very problematic due to the source author basically being a figurehead for an anti-transgender hate movement. Though of course, even before that, the films are pretty problematic as well. But whatever the case, these were all films that emphasized sentimentality, playing on the audience's emotions, like how Professor X plays with the lives of children. And Bicentennial Man is in the same vein. It's often a very funny movie, but it's also a drama, as well as a tearjerker at times. As I said, it's an emotional movie. It's a definite Chris Columbus joint through and through. However, Bicentennial Man's thematic resonance was what really made the movie memorable for me. See, the film has a strong focus on body self-determinism. As a person, Andrew is unsatisfied with his robotic body. He wants to be human after all. And over the course of the movie, Andrew goes on a journey where he tries to legally be recognized as a human, and where he gradually modifies his body to have more human qualities like skin, a face, a stomach, and etc. Also that he can feel more comfortable in his own body. And I truly really related to this story, mostly because it has a lot of parallels to my own experience as a transgender woman. See, like Andrew, my body and identity are at a mismatch. I was assigned male at birth, but I identify as a woman. And in order to become comfortable in my body and identity, I take hormone replacement therapy, plan to have gender-affirming surgeries, and have legally updated my name and gender markers on my legal documents to accurately reflect my authentic self. It is all the process of transition. And Andrew's story in Bicentennial Man is the same thing. It's a transition story where a robot transitions into becoming a human physically and legally. Hell, Andrew even has gender confirmation surgery, because you'd better believe he wants a monster cock. Reflecting the trans experience, Andrew desires to be the person he knows himself to be. This is ultimately Bicentennial Man's conflict. After all, there isn't an overarching antagonist in the movie, save for some good old-fashioned societal bigotry, because America. And given the absence of a character-specific villain, Bicentennial Man utilizes Andrew's conflict with his own body and the nature of his being to fill the gap. From there, the movie crafts its own stakes. Can the world view Andrew as a real person? Can he find someone who would romantically want to be with him, which is also relatable from the earlier aforementioned trans perspective? Will he ever have a body that reflects his true self? How will he internalize his immortal nature? These are all compelling questions and plot scenarios that the movie posits that cause the viewer to become invested with the events on screen. We, the audience, learn to care for Andrew and his struggle, all despite his fantastical science fiction origin. His struggle feels real. Overall, Bicentennial Man has a strong sense of heart. Through Robin Williams' humanizing performance, the film's nature as an emotional roller coaster, the transgender parallels, and its very personal conflict, Bicentennial Man's drama is incredibly resonant. It's a good movie, and for those reasons, Bicentennial Man is more than worthy of a critical re-evaluation, because clearly, the critics got it wrong. See ya. And with that, that was the video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a like rating, share, subscribe, ring the bell, and leave a comment telling me what you think of Bicentennial Man. Also, please consider checking out my Patreon page. $1 a month gets you onto my Discord server, and $5 a month allows you to make review requests like this one. The link to my Patreon is in the description. And speaking of Patreon, I just want to thank my patrons, particularly my high tier ones in David Samantha Devlin, Mom, and Morgan. Thank you so much for supporting what I do. Love y'all.